Someone suggested a while back that we cover the Without Rule of Law Pi project. The time has come, and this is actually a fairly capable project. While it does some things Internet in a Box arguably does better, it also has a ton of archiving functions that allow you to build a really robust and personalized library. A word of caution though, this project is not for the weak or faint-hearted. If this is a project you want to tackle, I suggest watching this whole video. I will be encountering issues with functionality and working fixes that you might find helpful. For this project, I am going to be using a Raspberry Pi 5, a microSD card, and an external 750 gigabyte USB hard drive. If you plan on reproducing this project, I would suggest going with a Raspberry Pi 4 or 5 as well, and a decent sized external hard drive, as that is really what the project is designed to use, and going that route will set you up for success further on down the line. To get started with this project, let's open a browser window and search for WROLPi. We can see it brings up a few links of interest, particularly the project website and the project GitHub page. Let's start at the project website. Okay, we have some project information. I'm going to scroll down, and here we have a link to the installation instructions, as well as links to the project images. I'm going to review the install instructions first, and click that. This doesn't look too bad. I'm going to make a note of those and go back to the previous webpage. Here, I'm going to select the Raspberry Pi Arch 64 image. It's 5.2 gigabytes. This is a large file, so give it some time to download. Okay, now that our image is downloaded, I'm going to go back to the instructions, and since I'm using a Windows PC, I'm going to follow the Windows instructions and use the Raspberry Pi imager to write the project's image to my microSD card. It also doesn't hurt to review the follow-on steps. Right now, I can tell you that this project is very particular about settings and things like file permissions, so attention to detail is extremely important. In Raspberry Pi Imager, I'm going to select my device, the Raspberry Pi 5, and then I'm going to select my image and navigate to my folder where I have that project image downloaded. Select that. Finally, in storage, I'm going to select my microSD card, a 256 gigabyte card in this case. And when that's done, hit next, and I am not going to apply any custom settings. According to the instructions, we are going to be setting that up at first boot, and I do not want to interfere with any scripts or unknown variables required for the project to work smoothly. So we'll let this run, and while that's going, I'm going to make sure my external USB hard drive is ready to go. In Windows File Explorer, I can see the external USB hard drive I want to use. It's identified as drive T with 698 gigabytes of usable space. Before I get too far with this disk, I want to clean it up just to make sure everything is good to go. So first, I'm going to Windows Search and type in disk. This will bring up Create and Format Hard Disk Partitions. I will select that, and now I have a good view of every disk in the system, and I can see my external USB drive is disk 14. I'm going to go back to the Windows search and type in CMD. This brings up Command Prompt, which I will select that, and in Command Prompt I'm going to type in disk part and hit enter. This opens the utility disk part, which is a command line utility for managing disks and partitions and such. Generally, it's just a cleaner, more reliable way of doing things that you can also do in the graphic utility create and format hard disk partitions. In disk part, I'm going to type in list disk and hit enter. This will list all my available disks, and I can see my disk at disk 14. Now I type in select disk 14 and hit enter, and list disk one more time. I don't have to list the disks a second time, but the asterisk shows that I have successfully selected the disk I want, and it's always a good idea to check just to make sure. Otherwise, I could end up formatting a drive that I didn't really intend to by accident. With my disk selected, now I type clean. This is a quick way of erasing all disk file system structure and giving me a clean slate. Just FYI, the data is actually still there. If I wanted to recover it, I still could. It wouldn't be a very easy process, but it is possible. If I type in clean all, Windows would actually go through and erase all the data on the drive. And that is a much longer process, obviously. But now with the disk clean, I'm going to create a new single partition and format it with a file system I know Linux can easily recognize. To do this, I now type in create partition primary and hit enter. This creates a single partition on the drive. Now I will type select partition 1 to select my new single partition. Once selected, I type format fs equals exFAT quick. This will quickly format my new partition for the exFAT file system. Close those windows now, and back in disk management, I can see my USB drive, but if you look close, you can see that no drive letter has been assigned, which makes sense because I have not specified a drive letter as of yet. But no worries, we won't need that where we're going. Now that the prep work is done and my microSD card has finished imaging, I'm going to pull everything out and get my Raspberry Pi 5 hooked up and ready to go. For this project, it is a little more involved, as not only am I inserting the microSD card and connecting my external USB drive, but I also need to connect the standard desktop peripherals, such as a monitor, mouse, and keyboard. Since this is first boot and according to the instructions, I'll need to configure the Pi with my user profile. You can connect your network cable at this point if you want, or connect it after first boot, but do make sure you connect your external USB hard drive to a Pi USB port with a blue insert, if you have one. The blue indicates USB 3.0, so you'll get better data speeds as compared to the black insert, which is USB 2.0. The 2.0 ports are good to use for peripherals such as your mouse and keyboard. Okay, now that the Pi is booting, we are going to follow the project instructions for setting up the user profile. Once it finishes booting to the welcome screen, select Next to get started. Here, everything looks good, but I'm going to change the time zone to my actual time zone. Next, I'm going to enter my basic username and password. This is important information, so you may want to write this down or make a note so you do not forget it. For the Wi-Fi connection, we are going to skip that part. For browser, I'm going to select Firefox. I'm also going to skip the software update check. Now that that's all done, we can reboot. Once it boots back in and our network cable is attached, we can note the device's IP address. I'm going to use this IP address to connect to the device using my Windows Secure Shell app, PuTTY. Here's PuTTY. I type in the IP address and hit connect. It's my first time connecting to this device, so I know there isn't a security breach. Hit accept, and now we can log in using the user credentials that we just established on the Pi itself. What a cool little welcome screen. Now our first order of business is to run this command. This will list all our drives and associated information. This is important because exFAT is actually not ideal for this project. What we want is a Linux file system for our drive. To get that, I'm going to unmount the drive with this command, and we can see that the drive is unmounted. Now this command will format our drive for the ext4 Linux file system. Give it a few seconds, and now we can remount the drive. I'm mounting it exactly where the WROLPi wants it, and I can run this command to verify that the drive I want is indeed exactly where I need it. As the project instructions state, I'm going to modify my fstab file so I have consistent mounting of my external USB drive regardless of reboots. This just makes sure everything stays the way we need it. You can copy and paste the command from the instructions. Oops, fat fingered that one. Copy again, and here we go. Now we can run the repair script, which will finish setting everything up. Give it a few minutes. It may appear stuck one or two times, but it is actually doing things. Once it finishes, we can reboot the system. We can also run the help script as it shows, and if you do, you get an output that looks like this. This looks mostly okay, but there are some interesting failed points. I feel like this is going to give us some problems later on. Once again, this project is a little rough around the edges, so expect some adversity and be ready to do some digging. With our Pi rebooted and connected to our network, we can now open a browser on another computer and navigate to the IP of our WROLPi. One of the nuances here is this project uses HTTPS, which is the secure version of HTTP. But since the cryptography isn't known by our system, we get this error. If you encounter this error on the internet, it may be concerning, but in this case I'm on my local network and I know everything is fine. So we can continue by selecting Advanced and continue to our IP address. And here we are, at our WROLPi dashboard. Let's refresh our files before going further. File refresh complete. Everything looks good so far. Let's start poking around a little and check out the admin tab. This is pretty cool. We can see a bunch of the stats on our little device right here. And we can see how much space is available on our system drive, as well as the utilization of our external drive. Over in the Downloads tab, we can see that downloads are enabled. We want to make sure that this selector is turned on, so we are actually able to download content from the internet. In the Settings tab, we have some basic controls. I'm going to leave these at their default settings, but if we scroll down, it looks like our config files aren't valid. I'll make a note of that for later, after we continue checking things out. Without rule of law mode is an interesting feature of this project. I'm not sure how I feel about everyone having access to the admin rights when they log into this, but at least this little selector gives you some control over your files and can prevent accidental deletion. Back to the home page, let's check out the Zim tab. This doesn't look great, so we may have to give permission to access that page, just like we did when we accessed the main home page initially. We can also try these commands in terminal. I'm going to use PuTTY to log into the WROLPi and enter the command to start the Kiwik server and see if that helps. Back at the WROLPi, that command may have done something, but it seems I need to actually download a zim file for the system to work as expected. You can see my zim here, and the admin tab shows you your download status. Now to get zim files, we can go to the Manage tab under Zim and see the provided Kiwik's catalog. Here we can browse and select the subscribe button to download it. Interestingly enough, we get a notification that downloads are disabled. But if we investigate our downloads, we can see that we are actually downloading the new zim file. While that's going on, we can still browse the content already on the device. And once the files have refreshed, we can see we have 2 zip files. Back in the Viewer tab, and we now have 2 zips available. We can also scrape bulk files from the internet, such as PDF documents. To do so, on the home page, select Download, then select Scrape. First, we need a URL which has the documents we want. So, let's open a browser and head over to Survivor Library. This page is also a zip file available from Kiwix, but it's also great for this demonstration. I'm in the radio library, and I'm going to just copy this URL and paste it into the box, like so. Next, we have to specify a destination, so I'm going to type in radio. I already made a radio directory, so it pops up, but you can make a new one right now. Next, we are going to specify PDF files in the File Suffixes box. Depth and max pages are good. Hit Download. Over on our Download page, we can see a whole slew of new downloads have populated, one for each PDF on the Survival Library. We'll let that run and complete. After a few minutes, we can head over to the Files tab, and here we can see a visual of our available directories. If we select the radio folder, we can see all the new PDF files. Lots of them. And we can select one and open it up for viewing. I do like how quick and responsive the interface is. Good stuff. Now, let's upload from our computer to our device. Select Upload from the home page. It looks like first we need to specify the destination for our upload, so I'm going to type in videos. When adding content, you can usually give it tags to help you navigate your library, so let's hit the tag icon. I'm going to tag this upload for firearms. Now we can select the Click Here box and navigate to our file we want to upload. I'm going to upload a training video, and here we can see it uploading. A little note though, after working with this WROLPi, it appears the .mkv file format is not supported for playback. So it may be wise to ensure that your videos are in a compatible format, such as MP4. Nonetheless, the file did upload successfully, and if we navigate to the Videos tab, we can see our uploaded videos, one of which I uploaded previously. The Horus Reticle training video is MP4, so it does actually play correctly. Another cool feature of this project is the handy built-in apps like inventory management, one-time pad, which could be handy for encrypted comms, a VIN decoder, other various calculators, which actually look pretty cool, and finally a basic statistics for the device and the library. Now, let's say we want to archive a website. This is a very cool built-in feature of the WROLPi. From the home page, select Download, then Archives. We will need a URL for this, so I'm going to head over to a cool little page that I'd like to download at thesoundsofswick.com. For the uninitiated, you can check this page out. It's a bit of an inside joke and cult classic for those that have gone through the Army Special Forces qualification course. All the songs are free to download, just don't take any credit for their creation. I'm going to copy that URL and paste it into the box here like so. Then I'm going to tag it and hit download. Now we can see the website is actually downloading. Once complete, let's go over and check out the new archive. If we select the Archive tab, we can see the Sounds of Swick. Click it, and sure enough, there it is. But if we click a song, it redirects us back out to the internet. So it appears downloading websites only goes one URL deep. Keep that in mind when you are archiving. Let's get into the map feature now. But before going too deep, we will need to get the proper map data to populate our map. So head over to this website and click through the subregions until you get to a fairly small region. In this case, I'm going to go for the state of South Carolina. Look for the osm.pbf file format and download that map data. That's the format the WROLPi needs for this to work. For this device, you really want the smaller map sections, like about the size of a state. I once tried to ingest the whole world, and it estimated something like 18 days to complete and a massive amount of storage required, so needless to say, I did not go through with that. With the map data downloaded to our computer, I'm going to select Upload from the home page and look for that map data directory. The map PBF directory is the one we want. Select that. Now we browse for our map data and select Upload. I already did this, so it alerts us that the file already exists. Over in the Map tab, select Manage, and we see our map data is going to process. Let's select it and import it. As you can see here, this takes some time, and it's also going to end up taking a lot more space than the original file size. So you can see why I warned you against downloading too large of a map set. Once that finishes, we can go back to the Map tab, and once again, the permission to access problem comes up. Let's just click that link this time. Sure enough, and let's grant permission, and here we go. We can see our map data populates on the world map. If we zoom in, we can get more detail, but it takes a little bit of time to update. Overall, not bad though, and this is a cool feature. Let's talk about using the WROLPi now to download videos from YouTube. I've been playing around with it, but in its current form, I haven't got it to work correctly. I have videos, but no audio, and I've ran into a plethora of other issues as well. I have a hunch that this is related to the YT-DLP version, which is the utility the WROLPi is using to download videos. Let's head over to the terminal to investigate further. First, let's check our current version of YT-DLP. This command will do that. And if you notice, I'm also showing you the location of the YT-DLP executable. So this is our current version, which I know is not the current release as of recording this video. This is interesting because as of when I set up this WROLPi, it should have used the newer version. So something is up. But let's investigate and try to update our version. This command is going to activate the virtual environment WROLPi uses. Now I should be able to update YT-DLP with this command, but I'm running into permission errors. The plot thickens. I am now going to head over to the project's GitHub page and start reviewing the code. What fun. This is where working knowledge of Python comes in very handy. The project developers have labeled some things, but it's pretty minimal. So here I've found the entry identifying the YT-DLP executable, so I know I'm looking at things correctly, and it appears I should have been able to update it. Investigating further on GitHub, there appears to be a markdown text file for general updates. And if I read through this, at the bottom is a general update script, right here. But if I go back to the main page on GitHub, I can see the last release is on January 12th. So I know I should be running the most up-to-date version of the project. This tells me that the project is not automatically updating YT-DLP, and this may be something we'll have to do manually. But I still feel like the permissions issue could be at the heart of this problem. Back at the terminal, I'm going to use this command to change ownership of this directory to me, the user. Now I'm going to change my working directory to the virtual environment and retry updating YTDLP. Oops. Ah yes, first I need to activate the virtual environment, obviously. So let's activate the virtual environment and try one more time. Okay, good. It updated. And now we are actually running the current version of YTDLP. Since I changed ownership of that directory, I'm heading back to GitHub and I see there is supposed to be a script for upgrading YTDLP. I also notice that this script is meant to be called by user WROLPi, not my user. So I may have gotten a little ahead of myself. I'm going back to terminal and I'm going to change ownership of that directory back to the WROLPi user, as I don't want anything else to break, and YTDLP has been successfully updated. Out of curiosity, I'm now going to change to the scripts directory, because remember there was that upgrade script on GitHub specifically for YTDLP. If we investigate the contents of this directory, we can see though that there is no script to update YTDLP. So this could be why the project failed to update during the initial setup. But no problem, we can create one easily by using this command with nano to create the script in this directory. We can then simply copy and paste the script contents from GitHub and then hit Ctrl and O to save. But, oh yes, I forgot to sudo that command. Real quick, let's go back and redo this. But add sudo to the front, or else you won't be able to save your changes. There we go, and our script is in place. Now we need to set the script as executable using this command. Forgot sudo once again. Sorry, it's been a long day. One more time, with sudo at the front, and all set. Now we can run it, and we see YTDLP is up to date, as it should be. So now, if we go to the WROLPi homepage and select Download, Videos, we can paste in a URL from YouTube. Select your destination directory, add tags, and download. Now it looks like it is actually downloading from YouTube. Great success! I'll let this run for a bit, as my connection isn't super fast, and there we go. Now I can go back to my device videos, and I can see I have successfully downloaded a video from our channel, complete with all the comments and everything. We can also now download channel playlists from YouTube. From the WROLPi homepage, select Download and Channel Playlist. We need a URL, so go to your desired channel, find the playlist, select View Full Playlist, and then select the little share arrow. This will give you the URL you need. Copy that URL. Back at the WROLPi, paste in the URL. Tag it if you want, and then select your destination directory. Tag the channel and hit download. We know that the channel has 2 videos, so it looks like everything is working as it should. It's going to download each video one at a time, and once it's done, we can go check out our new videos. I've also downloaded one of the Outpost channels just to make sure it's all working properly. Pretty cool. And on the topic of AI, you can also add Ollama and OpenWebUI to this Raspberry Pi. There's no menu item for it, so we have to type in the IP address and the port manually. But here you can see I have a functioning install running the current version, as of this video, of OpenWebUI. And here's a quick rundown of the Docker Compose I used. Our other video breaks down the entire install process, but this is an updated Docker Compose file showing the changes for a Raspberry Pi 5, and I added Tika to it as well. Tika is a new addition to the OpenWebUI, and I haven't messed with it too much yet, but it will hopefully improve the RAG capabilities. If you want to play with it yourself, this Docker Compose should get you up and running. Another tip for something I noticed while messing with this project, I would routinely get a pop-up warning that lost and found permissions were not set correctly. If that happens, like it did with mine, you can go to terminal and use this command to investigate who owns the lost and found. I'm not too worried about this directory, so I'm going to use this command to give read and execute permissions to all users. After doing this and rebooting, I found that most of my previous config failures are now remedied. I rebooted a few more times after this and played around with the inventory options, and actually all of these turned green eventually. So I'm not sure if some of these configs don't load until you use them or what the real deal is, but changing the permissions was at least a step in the right direction. Well, that about wraps up this project. I wasn't too sure about it in the beginning, but after messing around with it and using it for a few weeks, this is a pretty nice little addition for archiving data and being able to access the WROLPi and point it to a website or something that I would like to archive. It's pretty quick, pretty fast, and it makes it easy for me to get that data into a file and then move it around and maybe archive it on some larger systems. So it's a fun project. It is something that if you're going to do it, I would recommend reading a lot of the Python code on GitHub and really understanding what it's trying to do. Because even now, there are times when I'm using the device and things won't work because it is expecting particular values to be entered, and there just isn't any easy way to see like what the system is expecting. So be prepared to invest some decent time and energy into this, but if you do, it is a pretty solid addition. Thank you for watching, and we will catch you next time.
Horror has a face, and you must make a friend of horror. Horror and moral terror are your friends.